Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing the Season 2 premiere episode of That 70s Show, Garage Sale, written by Dave Schiff and directed by David Trainer. This is one of those shows that I didn't actually get into until after the series ended, when it was in syndication. And it was a couple of years after the show. The show ran from 1998 to 2006, a total of 8 seasons and 200 episodes. And I started watching it when it was on Teen Nick. And the first episode I watched, which I thought about discussing, but I decided not to because it's like, I like the episode, but it's not one of my favorites necessarily. But that episode was Kitty's birthday. Is that today? That was the first one I saw. And I was like, it's, I just figured I'd discuss a different episode. So this one is a classic because mostly for like with the parents, because they end up getting stoned because of Hyde's brownies. So it's just a great one. But I just figured, this one's very funny. And I think my favorite character was always Eric Foreman, the main character played by Topher Grace, because he's so sarcastic and he's like an underdog, and he's like the main character in the sense that they're always at his house in his basement. It's his circle of friends and his parents, of course, Red and Kitty Foreman. And also this series it's getting a reboot on Netflix. Well, I shouldn't say a reboot, a spin-off series called That 90s Show. It's in production, and Kurtwood Smith is coming back as Red Foreman and Deborah Jo Rupp is coming back as Kitty Foreman. So that's cool. And the premise is that they're now raising their granddaughter, Leia Foreman, as in Leia, Princess Leia from Star Wars, because Eric was always a big fan of Star Wars. So that she is Eric and Donna's daughter. So that's cute to know that I guess eventually they got back together, got married, had a daughter. So that's very cute, because Eric and Donna are the main relationship on this show in terms of they always had a thing for each other early on. It's established in the pilot, really, that they always had a thing for each other. They kiss actually at the end of the pilot. Donna kisses Eric, and then they eventually get together. Then they eventually break up. Then they get back together. Then when Eric leaves for Africa, that's the reason in the show, but the real reason was because the actor had left the series. And then, once an actor leaves the series, it's just gonna go downhill, and it certainly did. Don't need to discuss the last season of this show, which is not good at all. It's just, oh my god, because then also Ashton Kutcher as Kelso left the series too by then, and it just was not great, but that's how it is with long-running shows, that eventually it's kind of especially when actors leave, it's not the same, and it's just kind of chugging along, and it's just put it out of its misery then at that point. But there are some okay things about the final season, but for the most part, obviously the golden era of the show is its early seasons, in my opinion. And because early on the show is more so about, they're all teenagers, and it's kind of, even though it's set in the 70s, obviously it's timeless in the sense that it's teenagers fighting against authority. So fighting against the system, fighting against parents, things like that, and just wanting to party, have a good time, sex, drugs, rock and roll, especially it being the 70s, because the majority of the episodes feature the circle, which is just them sitting around getting high, and of course in this episode, when the parents unknowingly eat Hyde's special brownies, thinking they're just regular brownies, and then they end up getting stoned, and that's when Red sells Eric's car, the Vista Cruiser. So poor Eric. And then it's just so funny how they have Eric as the hard-ass parent, Red being really pissed off and really annoyed, and then Hyde being the good cop in the scenario, being Kitty. It's we're very disappointed, Red. So it's too funny. Oh gosh, that's just a funny, play on the usual dynamic of all of them getting stoned in Eric's basement, Gosh. And a fun, little tidbit I learned about this show is that originally it was going to be called The Kids Are All Right. They ended up titling the series That 70s Show because during a test screening of it, before it went to series, when they had the audience watch the pilot, when people were leaving, they saying, "Oh, I love the 70s show," and then they figured, "Oh, that's a good name for it, That 70s Show." So that's why they named it that. And the series was created by Bonnie Turner, Terry Turner, and Mark Brazil. And It's a funny show because it's like, a typical sitcom, but it's great characters. I might as well talk about all the characters. Eric Foreman, as I said, is my favorite. And of course, Donna Pinciotti, played by Laura Prepone, who, again, they have such a great dynamic, Eric and Donna. And actually, in college, I did a presentation because in one of my courses, we had to discuss a couple from a piece of media and like whether it was TV or a movie or anything. And I chose Eric and Donna from the show and from that '70s show. And I remember like doing a whole presentation saying how Donna is kind of the one that always initiated everything between her and Eric, even though he ultimately asked her out, like asked her to be his girlfriend, but like she was the first one to kiss him in the pilot, and she was the one who was then saying like, I'm ready to be with you when they first sleep together. Then, she was also the first one to say I love you to him when he first says I love cake, and then like he has to, because he was like nervous, and like he finally says it back to her at the end of that episode in particular, which is very cute. And then also later on they get engaged, and then that kind of falls through. So like it was just fun, like chronicling their romance, their friendship to romance throughout the series, and just discussing that relationship dynamic. So I remember doing like having a whole presentation about that in college. So because I love that couple. They're a great TV couple. And because they're just so cute. And so then also there's of course Michael Kelso, played by Ashton Kutcher, who's just the pretty dumb boy. That's it. Like the handsome moron, but he's so funny. And like of course, since this show is set in the '70s, specifically the mid to late '70s, and the series finale of course is New Year's Eve 1979, so then going into the '80s, And actually there was that '80s show that lasted for like half a second on, I never even saw it though, I think it was on Fox, I'm sure. And I know Glenn Howerton starred in it because that was before he's talked about this on the Always Sunny podcast, which I recommend if you're a big fan of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He mentioned that was doing that show helped prepare him for Always Sunny, like just being part of like kind of the creative process and seeing how what wasn't working for that show and what could work for his own series, So that's interesting too. But that was a failed, not even a spin-off, just kind of like its own thing of, I guess it's like, the next thing, that '80s show. It just didn't work out, obviously, because it was all different characters and everything. And so now we're going to be getting that '90s show, so who knows. And actually, all of the characters are confirmed to be returning except for Hyde, played by Danny Masterson. And not to get into all this because, you could look that up, but basically he has all these rape allegations, so that's disgusting and horrible. But that said, I loved the character of Hyde himself, so just like separating it from the actor, so it's really awful, but just to acknowledge that. But Hyde, I think he was one of my favorites too, though. I think, Eric, Hyde, Donna, like out of like the main 6 characters, like the friends, those 3 were always my favorites. And I love Red too, he's hilarious, and Kitty. But because Hyde just like, he always has the glasses, and he's definitely like the lead stoner of the group, and always kind of like wanting to fight the man, the system. And then like later on in the series, he becomes friends with Leo, played by Tommy Chung, who's just this hippie and like this war veteran and everything, and he's so funny. Oh my gosh. Of course, because of course Cheech and Chong, so that's hilarious. I wonder if he'll be in the reboot at some point. But then of course there's also Fez, played by Wilder Valderrama. And in hindsight, certain things with Fez would definitely be problematic today, just like today's day and age with television, like very non-PC. The fact that he's just Fez, we never learn his actual name, and we never learn where. That's part of the running gag in the series, though, like where is Fez from? We never learn that, so whatever. And then of course, Kelso's on-again, off-again girlfriend, Jackie Burkhart, played by Mila Kunis. And what's cute is that they're together in real life. They ended up together in real life, Ashton and Mila Kunis. They're married and have a couple of kids. It's so cute. My goodness. But apparently they had dated early on, like at the time when they were on the show together, and then they had broken up, and then obviously they were with other people. But, that's cute that they ended up together, I just think that's adorable. When couples, like when they play couples on TV and then in real life they end up together. That's really sweet. But a fun fact I've learned about that too, I don't know if it's a fun fact, it's an interesting fact though, that when she auditioned for the series, Mila Kunis, she was only 14 at the time, and then she said, well, I'm 16, like I'm gonna be 16 or whatever, like basically saying she was a little bit older. And then she had said, well, it was like a white lie, like I was gonna be 16. And at the time, Ashton Kutcher was 20. So that's weird to think at the time. And then, because also she had said that that was her first kiss, like I think for on screen anyway, her first kiss, Mila Kunis. So that's cute that now they're husband and wife, you know. Because in the show, though, they're so toxic, this couple of Jackie and Kelso. She basically is like the one who wears the pants in the relationship. She is kind of abusive at times in terms of always like yelling at him and like belittling him and everything. And yes, he is a moron, but he doesn't deserve that. And that said, she doesn't deserve the fact that he then goes on to be like behind her back trying to fool around with Eric's sister, Lori. And sadly, that actress has since passed away. And also, the actress who plays Midge has since passed away too, Tanya Roberts. So very sad. But the actress who played Lori was Lisa Robin Kelly. And so in the show then, when Kelso like fools around with Lori and Lori doesn't care, she just like sees him as a plaything, and then they end up breaking up, Kelso and Jackie. But then they end up getting back together, and they break up again. And then after like they are done, then Jackie starts dating Hyde, which seems like such a mismatched pairing, but I personally think that that pairing should have ended up together because they actually balanced each other well. They ended up like making each other better. Like she had to learn how to not be so like in control and demanding and everything, and he had to learn to be more sensitive and like more listening to her feelings and not just like being dismissive of her. So they kind of were a great couple, I feel, Hyde and Jackie. I think those two should have ended up together. I don't know why they didn't, because Jackie then ends up, like, in the series finale, she ends up with Fez, which, like, I know Fez had a thing for her here and there, and in this episode specifically, in Garage Sale, he thinks that she's into him just because she's just like, oh, Fez, you're so funny, and then, like, he kisses her, and then she's like, later on, like, Donna, it wasn't terrible, like, you know, when he rolls his R's, that's what he did in my mouth, like, you know, and then Donna tries it on Eric, and he's just like, wow, he rolled your tongue, they just end up making out. It's too funny. So they had such great chemistry too, Laura and I was about to say Eric and Topher Grace. I wonder if they ever dated in real life, but I don't know. I know it doesn't really matter, but because they really did make such, like, they were such a cute couple on the series. But so, you know, that's like another thing that was bad about the final season of the show, because also obviously since there was no Kelso, there was no Eric, and then they brought in that guy, whatever his name was, Randy, played by Seth Meyers' brother, Josh Myers. And like nothing against him, it's just like forcing another character, like just for the sake of having another, you know, like there's no point to do that, like having like just another person in the mix, like in the group, and have him date Donna, like just because, and he's like handsome and like supposedly nothing like weird about him, like he's just like was a kind of a bland character. Like, yeah, he's good looking, yeah, he's just like not like an awkward dork like Eric. Like Eric is so endearing because he's like, you know, he's a nerd, and he is ultimately though a good guy, and like, you know, he's funny and sarcastic, and like, you know, with of course with Red always saying gonna like my foot up your ass. There's like a whole montage of that. Like, I wish I had 2,000 feet so I could shove 500 of them in each of your asses. And one of my favorites is when he says, you're about to read a book that my foot wrote. It's called On the Road to In Your Ass. I love that. I also love that one episode where he says, when my time comes, I want to be buried face down. So anyone who doesn't like me can kiss my ass. That's too funny. And I love Red's forced friendship with Bob Pinciotti, Donna's dad. And because with Donna, she has such a great relationship with Eric, though they break up, but then they get back together. But like their relationship is so solid. And then it's contrasted with her parents and how they're always on again, off again, until eventually she ends up leaving Midge, and then he goes on, like Bob goes on to date that woman, I forget what her name is now, Diane or something? Oh, I'm blanking, whatever her name is. Joanne, that's it, not Diane. Joanne just came to me. And also, then he dates Jackie's mom for a bit, so that's that's funny too. But I realize I'm just kind of talking about the show in general, but whatever. I was also thinking about discussing the episode Dine and Dash, which is a great episode too, when Kelso offers to take them all out to dinner, and then he's like, okay, so you guys ready? We're gonna dine and dash. And then one by one they end up leaving until it's just Eric and Donna. Donna's so funny. She's like, are you sure? He's driving by, he took your car, and he was going like this, pointing and laughing. So then, he leaves, and then it's like, don't worry, he's coming back, we could trust him. And it's like, oh, he's not coming back, and we trusted him. And then when Jackie leaves, it's she's like, don't worry, I'm not like those idiots. She isn't mature like those idiots. And then finally it's Eric and Donna, and then they get them back by putting Superlax in their brownies. Oh gosh. And there was also that girl, Caroline, who Fez dates for a bit, who ends up just being, super obsessive and not sane. And she was played by Allison Munn, who played Tina in... So that was funny. Then in hindsight, I remember watching this and be like, oh, wait, that's Tina from What I Like About You. So that's funny. And another episode I loved... So I might as well just mention overall, there are a few moments in this show that always make me burst out laughing. I haven't seen this show in a long time. It used to be on Netflix, but it's not anymore, so that's too bad. It's not even on Hulu or anything, so it's harder to find with the streaming and everything. But there's a few moments that always make me laugh. One is early on in the series when it's Eric's birthday, and then when Red is just happy birthday. The lawn isn't going to mow itself, because him always being such a hard ass. But then, he of course loves his family, even though he favors Lori, but he's so tough on Eric, because it's just he's trying to guide him, even though of course he's a hard ass. He's very strict. He's just always impatient, but then he's also a great husband to Kitty, and they have such a great relationship too, Red and Kitty, because they have, they just are a great support system with each other, and they're so funny. And of course Kitty with her iconic laugh is great, so it's so funny. And so also another funny moment that I love is, I don't remember, it's one of the Christmas episodes, and for some reason just always makes me, the delivery of it is so funny, when Eric says how he wants a new radio or something for his car. He says, well, but I never get what I want, so I might as well ask for a raincoat or something, a new stereo system. And then later on, Kitty, she's like, oh, I know you want to wait till Christmas, but I might as well, just to cheer you up, I'm going to give you one of your gifts now. And he's like, oh, wait, it feels heavy. So it's actually, he opens it up, he's like, I can't believe you got me a raincoat. He's so excited for a second, thinking it's what he wanted, and then it's it's the raincoat that he joked about. And she's like, oh, did I fool you? I put rocks at the bottom. That always gets me, that delivery. And also another moment is when, Eric tries to kick open Donna's door to show her that he got a tattoo, and he's so excited, and he kicks it and he just flies against the wall, slams against the wall and slides down, and the look on his face is just so defeated, and it's so hilarious and ridiculous. I love that too. And then later when he shows her the tattoo and she's like, Woodstock, and he says, it says Woodstock? No, it's Snoopy's friend Woodstock. You have a little yellow bird on your ass. So ridiculous that he got a tattoo of Woodstock. So funny. And another there's a moment that I got a big laugh from the audience, when Fez and Kelso think that Eric slept with Donna's mom, and because they finds the panties in his car, thinking it's that he slept with her or something, and then Kelso's like, Eric, you are a god, I say. And then she's like, no, it was me and Bob. It's so ridiculous, so dumb, oh my gosh. Just certain ridiculous things like that. I also love the musical episode of the show. I know people kind of always make fun of musical episodes, and even in this one, clearly lip syncing, but it's just so funny, the musical episode, when they're singing, some people call me a space cowboy, and they're all singing that. And I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. And they sing a few songs, which is cute. I like that episode too. Another episode I liked that I thought about discussing too was the Hyde's birthday episode. That's when Eric and Donna are broken up though, and they go through all this trouble to get a sign that says High Street, and then afterwards they're saying, it's oh, so you got this at the flea market? It's no, we stole it. It took forever. It's just so dumb. And then they're trying to get a saw to saw it down, and then Kelso's trying to distract Red by saying, oh, we got to get a rabbit from a tree. Eric threw it up there. And Red's like, Eric threw a rabbit up a tree? Yep, he's a sadistic bastard. So stupid. Anytime Kelso would be like, well, damn, Jackie. I remember that one episode when they're like on a ski trip or something, like in a cabin, and then Jackie's like, Michael, I'm cold. And then Kelso just says, well, damn, Jackie, I can't control the weather. So they did not have a good relationship overall, even though, like, you know, they're funny together, but ultimately not a healthy relationship. Whereas Hyde and Jackie were a good relationship, and they should have ended up together. So, but it is what it is, you know, with this show. And I'm glad Eric and Donna eventually get back together too, because like in the finale too, they reunite and they kiss, and it's very cute, you know. So they're like so sweet together. And so, you know, I barely discussed this episode, whatever, like, you know, but the funniest thing is like they get high, the parents, and like he sells the Vista Cruiser, and then like he picks up the fire extinguisher. It's like, you said we were going for ice cream. Picks up the fire extinguisher, and he's like, wow, that really shot out of there. And they get the car back. And then when Fez kisses Jackie, and like Kelso gets pissed off at him, but, you know, they work it out. And then Hyde with the brownies, selling the brownies. It's just funny, oh my gosh. Because they go through, like, that's when Red had lost his job. So they go through, like, obviously all of the hardships, like, throughout the 70s, like, you know, with the recession and everything. And it's a funny show with just great characters. And like, obviously, it being set in the 70s, that makes it more relatable for people who grew up in the 70s. Like, especially with the wardrobe of this show and the hairstyles and everything. So it's too fun. I'm trying to think of any other hilarious moments off the top of my head that make me always, like, laugh out loud, too. It's hard to remember now because, again, I haven't seen this series in a long time. But just recalling random episodes and moments. So, you know, it's a fun series and great characters and just so funny. I do also like in this episode when Red is just saying, here comes Peter Cottontail, hopping down the bunny track, just singing hip, it keeps saying the word hip. It's not even a word, like, you know, because them being high. So funny. And then even when Donna shows up laughing, and then when Eric's like, you know, your parents had the brownies too, and she just goes running. Oh my gosh. Them in the circle is just so hilarious, because it's usually always Eric and his friends, and then they always tie it back to whatever's going on in the episode, but them just thinking that they're coming up with great ideas while being stoned. Goodness. And we're all alright, hello Wisconsin. And with that, that's going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. Be sure to visit storytellingsaga.com, and as always, feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by emailing me at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next episode, I thought I'd discuss the Simpsons movie. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.
Some people call me the space cowboy.
Yeah. Some call me the gangster of love.
Well, some people call me Maurice, 'cause I speak of the competence of love.
'Cause I'm a picker, I'm a grinner, I'm a lover, and I'm a sinner. I get my loving on the run.
I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker.
Playing my music